Well, first of all, I'm glad to be here and be a part of all this. I guess it's really a kind of a common theme as I travel, as I get around, to see similar principles in regenerative agriculture being used, multi-species, diversity, cover crops, and emphasis in soil health, talking about microbes, all that stuff. But there's a whole new set of plants here. I mean, I'm not used to seeing a lot of flax or pinto beans, for instance, stuff like that. Certainly not from where I come from in southeastern Pennsylvania. So seeing some of those unique differences and some of the things you're testing, like with the worm juice and so forth, that's the first time I've actually really seen on site some tests like that. So it's very intriguing for me to see that. I hear about some of this stuff. I keep tabs of it, and it's certainly, I come here not just to share some of the things I know, but also to learn myself so that I can apply to my own farm in Pennsylvania or help other growers around the world to help point them in a direction that this is maybe something they want to try. Well, when I first started, anything had to do with conservation, it was just about soil erosion on my farm. And now we've evolved to dozens and dozens of different aspects of things we're trying to accomplish. Little did I know how many things we could do in what we're learning here with using cover crops and diversity and all that. And I think it's safe to say the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. And so, and I see that everywhere. So I applaud what the Menoken Farm is doing here. And I think there's just continuing learning going to happen. My challenge to farmers, and I'll say challenge to you too, is to think about how you can improve in some aspect, maybe 10%. That's a very easy number to grasp and maybe to accomplish. And that's what I'm trying to challenge the groups that I speak. What is something you can do 10% better, or try something new that's 10%? And then build on that. There will be a few failures once in a while. And also to treat your cover crops like your cash crops. If you have that mindset, you're going to be a better, more successful soil health person in your understanding of what can be done if you really take it seriously, like we do with our cash crops. Yes, there's a failure once in a while. Just because we have a bad corn year doesn't mean we quit growing corn or whatever your cash crop is. Just because you have a bad cover crop year doesn't mean you quit using cover crops. We know they work. We're just trying to figure out how to manage them the best we know how with what we know right now.
Well, I guess to me what's really interesting about the Menoken Farm here is all the forward thinking that's going on, and really breaking out of the box and trying new things, and willing to make mistakes in order to find a new, better way of doing things, and a way that's more one with nature, where we can get away from a lot of the band-aids that we've been putting onto agriculture, production agriculture, in the past decades. And anything we can do to get closer, back in sync with Mother Nature, to me is a good way of doing things. And then finding a way to make it profitable is that much better. So we got started with cover crops really on a small scale. We started with no-till, and that was kind of the first thing that came along. And then we started hearing more talk about covers and soil health, and started going to some meetings and hearing about other people's experiences with those. And you start small and it just evolves, and you try new things, and you got to be willing to make a few mistakes along the way. And doing our own experiments along with the help of others really helped us out, and kind of helped us develop a few different methods, instead of just shooting from the hip all the time. Now when we do it, it's more planned, and we also, there are opportunities that arise where you need to just kind of do things at the spur of the moment. And now that we have a better handle on covers and how to use them, when those opportunities arise, we kind of know what to do already. So.
Right, yeah, well, it's kind of unique to come back because, yeah, you're right, it was, I think it started as a high school project through FFA, and I think I was a junior or senior in high school, and I remember coming out to the Burleigh County event. I think that was in town in Bismarck, and speaking at that. And it was kind of interesting because I was growing a forage-based cover crop that year and grazing my family's cattle on it, and then we weighed the cows before they grazed on the cover crop and after they grazed on it to track their weight gain. And, I had planted some goofy things out there like radishes and turnips and peas and barley and Sudan grass, and it got the neighbors talking, I think. But so nobody had done that in our area at that time, but we were really impressed with how the cattle did. Not only the weight gain, but the benefits to their health and overall well-being. And then the soil the following year. That field happened to be grassland that I was converting back to cropland. And I had seen neighbors do a lot of interesting things to ground when they're doing that process. And this just seemed a whole lot simpler and easier and better for the resource. Yeah, it can be tough at times, but it seems like you have to find some type of common ground, and usually just telling your story and why you do what you do. So for me, it is explaining how I raise the beef and what they're eating throughout the year, and how I produce the forage or crops that they consume. And then when you can actually have the product, such as the beef, and provide that to consumers or customers or whoever they might be, and then they taste that, it's kind of, your family seems to be your guinea pigs at certain points, but, when they comment and say, wow, that's the best steak I've ever had, so once you explain it and follow through and they get to experience it, I mean, that's a lifelong connection. And then from there, it's just word of mouth. Good news travels fast, they say, so the word just continues to spread from there.
So, hello, North Dakota. So, when I came here in 2007, it was January. I distinctly remember it was 17 below zero. I kind of enjoyed that because we don't usually get that cold in southeastern Pennsylvania. When I was here and I actually stopped in 2013, our family was taking a trip around the U.S. and it worked to stop in here. We wanted to stop in. I remember that day was very hot, because it was in like the middle of June. And today you got the temperature just right. Right? It's just really nice. So great to be here. What is a farmer from southeastern Pennsylvania that typically gets 40 inches of rain, and last year got 60 inches of rain? Trust me, 60 is too much. We had a bad year last year. 60 was too much rain for us. So I know you guys are on the dry side, and you probably are jealous sometimes of my 40-inch annual rainfall. I'm telling you, as you know, I know you know this, but too much rain can be just as bad as not enough. So we as farmers, we have to deal with the weather. That's a given. And I will just say that the topic, the reason we're here today, cows, cover crops, and crops, is all about the weather and trying to mitigate our risk. And that's why soil health is such an important topic today, because we're able to sometimes it's helpful to be able to minimize some of the risk that we have in our soils by the management that we use. And we're going to see some stuff out here in the fields. I was given the pre-tour this morning, and I really appreciate coming to an area like this that has I guess, I don't know if you call this, Jay, a demonstration farm, or just to have something that they can test some of the things to see if they work around here. And yes, there's some failures out there. Heads up, few failures, but that's how we learn. I've had failures. I mean, thank you for the wonderful introduction, Daryl. Yes, I've been doing cover crops pretty intentionally for many decades now, but I kind of feel if I don't have at least a little failure every year, I'm not trying hard enough. But that's me. I'm an innovator, so I enjoy pushing it out there. But also, I pick up a lot of things that I hear from around the world, that I hear from the connections I have, and so forth. Also want to mention, Jay's been to my farm, Jay Fuhr, at a field day. Ken Miller, where are you at now, Ken? I'm so glad to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time. Ken was in at my farm. When was that? 2010-ish? 11? Somewhere in there. 1812, that's right. A little off there. I was a century off. So what can we learn from each other? And as I travel, I see many things, but one thing remains the same. The principles, the fundamental principles of regenerative agriculture stay the same worldwide, but you need to implement, each of you need to implement those principles almost down to the field by field. And if you don't seriously embrace this movement, whatever you want to call it, if you don't seriously embrace it, you may not succeed. Because cover cropping, soil health, And those principles are simple concepts. They're not hard to understand, but they are very complex to implement on your farm. How do you do that then? How do you even come to a meeting like today and see some of this stuff out here? Talk to your neighbors, talk to someone you haven't seen in a long time. How do you take that stuff and implement it on your farm? Well, I'll tell you, one of my main things I share almost every time I speak is a mindset. That mindset is this: you need to treat your cover crops like you treat your cash crops. If you do that, if you think of them as part of your overall cropping system, you will stand a better chance of success in making them work for you. The cost of cover crop seed. Do cover crops pay? That is the question I asked in 1995. And I started doing some research then with the University of Maryland. And it took us 4 years before we saw a distinctive difference. And you know what showed up? It was during a drought, a dry period. Our droughts probably aren't defined quite like yours, I'll give you that. But anyway, we had 28 bushels more corn where we had planted cover crops the 4 years previously. That's all I needed. From then on, from 99 on, I've been all in. It's like, how do we make these work? How do we maximize it? So, what is your moment? What's your epiphany? Think about, what are you trying to accomplish with cover crops and soil health? It can be more than one thing, but this is important to identify. Not that you're trying to mimic your neighbor, copy your neighbor, or you hear, is it wind erosion, water erosion, trying to make some more, nitrogen, things like that, trying to hold your nutrients. Lots of things out there you can do with this soil health. But what is it for you? Think about that. What are you looking for on your farm, in your fields? And then as you start to identify what you're trying to accomplish, then you can start talking about, okay, next question, what is the time of year? When can we fit in a cover crop? Can we get creative? Can we do relay? Can we do companion cropping? Do we change up our cash cropping somehow to make this work? You will need to change something. Cover cropping is not like finding the missing puzzle piece and finishing the puzzle. Cover cropping, soil health, and I use those terms interchangeably here, is more like rearranging the picture. You will probably have to rearrange a picture. You will probably have to do something different. How many of you have been using cover crops for more than 5 years? Okay, a few of you. How many of you are doing the exact same thing that you did 5 years ago? Not too many. Most people who get into cover crops evolve. They change because they start somewhere, they see something, they tweak it. And to a degree, it's kind of like our cash crops too. Now, there's certain things that we latch into in our cash crops, but you're always looking for new varieties, right? And new things like that. You need to have that same tenacity with cover crops. Treat your cover crops like your cash crops. Here's another thing that I want you to think about. If you're really serious about making this work, you need to have a mentor. You need to have someone that you can talk to, that you can communicate with, you can connect with. I'm involved in several different groups of people on Twitter, some on Facebook. I run a cover crop innovators group myself, but I have friends around the world. And the ideal mentor is your neighbor who is doing what you want to accomplish. Now, a lot of times in our neighborhoods, that's probably not available. They're either ridiculing you at the coffee shop or whatever, or they don't want to talk to you because they don't really believe what you're doing. I've heard the stories, and I know, for myself, sometimes someone said, well, you're an island of sustainability. I heard that long ago, and I kind of took that as a badge of honor, actually. I kind of like that definition. But I'm telling you, think about someone who is doing what you want to accomplish. I said, think about what you want to accomplish. Who is doing that? If it's someone in your neighborhood, awesome, because they have similar soil, similar geography, similar climate. That's the best. One of my mentors is Frederic Thomas from France. He's in France, kind of a quarter of a world away, if you will. Similar climate to Pennsylvania, where he's from. So that's helpful. But again, there's also a lot of differences too. But we think alike. That's what I like. We stimulate one another. We run things by each other. I've been to France 4 times on his farm, over there, spoke many times. We talk probably once a month, email and stuff. That's one of my mentors. So I want to challenge you with that. Who is your mentor? If you're really serious about this, you just can't go to a meeting like this and run home and just make magical things happen that you hear about. It's a lot more than that. It's very complex to make that work. So that's just some of the, some of the broad statements that have helped me. I trust it helps you. But this whole thing of connecting with one another, we now have huge amount of resources to draw from. I mean, you could spend a week on YouTube now watching different stuff on soil health. There's a lots of resources out there. I tell people what I have learned in 25 years, what I've been able to do in 25 years in my farm, you can now do in 5 or maybe less because of all the information that's out there. So we live in a wonderful time. We live in an exciting time in agriculture. One of the things that I just want to kind of tie this all together is where I see some of the opportunities coming here. For some of you, could be all of you if you really want it. And that is, and some of you have been hearing about this a little bit, is the general public, the consumers, the end users of the food we grow. Now, some of us don't grow for the end users. You grow corn that gets fed to a cow or a steer that gets butchered and the end user buys the meat. So a lot of us don't have connections with the end users, but we all know in this day and age, the end users out there want their food grown in some form or fashion that doesn't rape the planet. That's just kind of the vibe that's out there. And I know we all don't fit in that category. We don't. We're not trying to waste the earth. But there is a kind of it's a whole desire out there that they want their food grown in a way, call it sustainable, call it regenerative, whatever word you want to put on it. Some sort of a soil health practice, and so this is an opportunity that we have, especially this group that's here today, because what a lot of you guys are doing or thinking of doing, the general public likes. I'm talking cover crops, soil health, and so forth. I live in the Chesapeake Bay. How many of you heard of Chesapeake Bay? It's kind of the pilot, if you will, of the nation for a watershed. And people ask me, what's it like to live in the Chesapeake Bay, as a farmer? I'm like, no problem for me. I'm doing everything they want to do anyway. And I never went no-till on cover crops because of the issues of the Chesapeake Bay. If you haven't heard, since 2015, the Chesapeake Bay is turning around. More crabs, more fish, more oysters. It wasn't just agriculture, it was other people's way, but agriculture had a big part to play in that. So we have made a difference, but it took a long time to do that. So consumers out there want something the way food is produced, and all of us are producing food. So you might have heard General Mills is a big one that's been out there, put $3 million into soil health research, actually sponsored a No-Till on the Plains conference. I mean, who would have saw that coming, Jay, a couple years ago? That says something. You can have opinions on what you think about that. I happen to work more closely with Wrangler jeans. I bet there's a lot of Wrangler jeans out there today in this audience. Probably none of us grow cotton. I don't grow cotton. But guess what? Wrangler jeans wants to have their cotton farmers grow cotton in some sort of environmentally friendly way. So Wrangler Jeans is putting money into research into growing no-till cotton into heavy cover crops. I was on the fields. I saw it. I've been to Wrangler headquarters in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I've seen this. And I'm just going to share this example. And there's many coming on out there. But they have now finally, after 2 years, just on April the 20th, released their first pair of jeans, available only online, as a part of their Rooted collection. That's the brand of that. And the whole overall thing is tough denim, gentle footprint. That's a pretty good slogan there. So you can now go on the internet today, go home and check it out. You can go to the Rooted collection, and there's 5 farms you can choose from in 5 different states that were grown. And the story's there, pictures of the family and their story and everything, all that cool stuff. Grew cover crops, used no-till. Now, the jeans are 99 bucks a pair, but people are buying them because it's a story. I have a pair on today. Now, I'm not being paid by Wrangler. Well, they paid me to get down there, but I'm not paying to say they sent me a pair. I'm not going to buy $99 jeans, trust me. I'm not there yet. But I won't show you, but inside the pocket is listed the farm that these jeans were grown on with the website that you can go and see how these jeans were grown, the cotton. This is opportunities that are starting to come up that you guys are being primed for. Your neighbors who are not here today may miss out on this. So I want to kind of leave that as a challenge. There's many other companies doing it. I'll just share briefly. Last year, about this time of year, I was in Indiana, and I was up speaking in front of a group about this size. And I just happened to notice right down the second row, two guys sitting there, ADM shirts on. You guys know ADM, right? Archer Daniel Midland, biggest buyer of corn and soybeans in the United States. And I just stopped. I was telling my Wrangler story. I said, why are you guys here today? Oh, we're here to learn about cover crops. Why? Well, they didn't really know what to say. It was public. And I said, well, what's that? What do you guys think about that? ADM's up here at a cover crop meeting. Afterwards, I did talk to them, and they said, we're just trying to figure this out. The biggest issue is segregation and all that, and what are they going to do to, whatever. The bottom line, the message I want to leave with you as I wrap up here is there's a revolution in agriculture that's happening. You guys have a chance to be a part of it somehow, some way. I don't know how. I honestly don't know how. I'm a vegetable farmer, by the way. I'm growing for Whole Foods. Whole Foods love what I do. Trust me. I'm not organic, just in case you're wondering, because Whole Foods sells a lot of organic. They love my no-till pumpkins. They love the story that I'm protecting the Chesapeake Bay. And I also grow for a company you never heard of called Sweet Green. Sweet Green is a soup and salad company on the East Coast and the West Coast. They are literally have moisture sensors and stuff they have installed at my farm to monitor moisture. I am going to be starting to sell tomatoes to them next week. These tomatoes will be tracked using a QR code. They already know when they were planted. I've already given them information so that when you go to their store and buy it, if you want to know where those tomatoes came from, you can get your smartphone, go right up the QR code, and it'll say it was grown at Cedar Meadow Farm, Holtwood, Pennsylvania. Planted May the 1st or something like that. Date it was picked, date it was packed, date it was shipped, and date it arrived to the store, if you want to know that. I'm just saying that's happening out there now. These are some of the things that you want to take advantage of. Get ready. You guys are primed for this. I don't know how it's going to look in North Dakota. I don't. I'm just saying that there is an interest out there from consumers how their food was grown. And the whole soil health story, the cover crop story, is very easy to tell. When people ask me in my neighborhood, at church, friends, relatives, so what is this cover crop thing you're involved in? You know what my answer is? I keep nitrates out of the Chesapeake Bay. One sentence, I'm a hero. And it's true. And then we talk if they want to talk. Now, if they would say, so what do you think of GMOs? That's a dead end. We'll just get round and round. I'm not going to, what do you think about glyphosate? You're just going to argue till you're blue in the face and that. Cover crops, the soil health story, that's very compelling. They get it. Why do you plant flowers around your fields? Oh, because I want to have beneficial insects come in so I don't have to use as many pesticides. Hero. So these are opportunities. You're going to have to find them here in North Dakota. Jay's helping you in that. Daryl, people who are working here. All of you are part of this answer. I'm going to leave here and get back home. I have meetings to go to tomorrow evening, and we have our big Pennsylvania No-Till Alliance on Thursday. We'll be talking about the same stuff you guys are here. It's the same stuff. It's just what applies in our region. So keep up the good work. Keep trying to stay curious, keep learning, and I wish you the best, and I'm looking forward to spending the rest of the day here with you guys. I want to talk to all of you if I can, so thank you for the time.